Was goody? Yo, my people, how y'all been, man? How y'all been? How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Hope y'all good. Been a while since I've seen you guys. And yeah, I'm back in it with another video. This one's an update, rather second episode of symbolisms of the Illuminati and Masonic Brotherhood. Trying to bring you more awareness or knowledge rather on how these guys communicate right in front of your eyes so that when you see these symbols on your TV screens or on social media or on whatever screen you're looking at, you know what you're dealing with. You know that you're being fed content by devil worshippers, or not being fed content, but more so just you just know who you're dealing with, because a lot of times they'll use these symbols, these signals, these hand signs, these gestures, these occultic metaphors to communicate to their brotherhoods. Let's rock. Let's hop into it. So the first one. So the way that the Tau Cross intercepted or infiltrated Christianity was that at the time of a Christian revolution, where at the time Christianity, the brand of Christianity was booming, the brand of paganism was declining, and obviously Christians were going out hunting devil worshippers. So worshippers of Vulcan, or these guys that use the T cross or any of these variances of cross, they would repent and say that they're Christians, but yet keep that symbolism and keep that cross even after having pretentiously converted into Christianity, so that they would continue their practice and continue their faith in plain sight without any doubt. And there was a lot of secrecy developed into this because there would be churches that have these crosses on the forefront, and then in order to get into those churches, you would need like a secret handshake or a secret hand symbol in order for the real devil worshippers to identify themselves, because otherwise, if you did not know those handshakes or hand symbols, then of course you were an outsider, and which is pretty much what's going on today. Masons, they have their secret handshakes to help identify themselves. So other forms of this Vulcan or Tau or Tammuz cross include the Leviathan cross, the double arm cross, the iron cross, and I'm not sure what these other crosses are. I've seen them a lot in European flags. We've spoken about this, the X, which is the cross of Osiris. So that's another one. And then another cross that you guys definitely know, another cross that you guys have definitely seen, is this one right here, the Ankh or the T. And you know, I know a lot of you may have girlfriends that have this symbol tatted on their bodies, and hopefully she doesn't practice witchcraft. But yeah, man, this symbol is Luciferian, and the Egyptians used this ankh as a magic wand. When priests or pharaohs carry this, they used it when practicing magic or their witchcraft. And what this piece is a culmination of is pieces of, well, metaphors of the womb and the male phallus coming together. That's what the circle represents on top. The head of the circle, that is a womb. And the staffs, the long staffs, that is the male phallus. So this ankh represents the bringing together of opposites, both male and female, in order to create a perfect balance in magic, which is a very Illuminati and Masonic idea, or this idealism that they like to, share and portray. They believe in bringing together opposites, up, down, male, female, sun, moon, darkness, light, white, black. Hey guys, I just want to say that I'm sorry about the audio, man. I'm working on getting a proper microphone for these videos, to increase the audio quality. One more thing that I want to show you guys is about the cross. If you fold the cross three-dimensionally, it rolls up into a cube, right? And this cube isn't just any cube, it is also referred to as the cube of Saturn or the Kaaba, which is the black cube that Muslims run around in Turkey, in worship. So that is the cube, the Kaaba, the cube of life, the cube of destiny, the cube of knowledge, the tesseract. And when I say cube of Saturn, well, a lot of you guys already know Saturn is just another way of saying Satan. So the cube of Saturn is the cube of the devil. And yeah, man, it's just Luciferianism hidden in plain sight. And if you think about it, Yahweh was crucified on the cross. So more so, it's like a symbol of victory for Satanists or Luciferians. So we got to keep that in mind, man. All right. So second symbol that I know you guys have seen or heard of before is the self-eating serpent. Now, the self-eating serpent original name is actually Ouroboros, which I actually discovered while researching this video for you guys. And I was watching this series, the Loki series. What is it called? Yeah, I think it's just called Loki. There's a character there who's like the architect of the time travel commission. I forget what it's called, but his name was Ouroboros, and that struck with me because it's just another example how they put these things in front of our faces, bro. And if it's like one series doing that, how many other series are doing that? How many other movies are doing that? How much is music doing that? Like I heard music when you recite lyrics, you think you're saying something that makes perfect sense. Like, for example, I'm gonna quote a Drake song. You used to call me on my cell phone. To us, that sounds like you used to call me on my cell phone. But that could be an ancient language or a language that we aren't familiar with. And in that language, you used to call me on my cell phone could mean something else. And then when you recite it, it's like you reciting a curse upon yourself or something like that. Which is what a lot of these concerts are. They're like portals into with spirits. What's up? With spirits. They're like portals where the artists guide souls onto these spirits. But anyways, I digress. All right, so Osiris was actually also depicted with as a serpent with his tail in its mouth. And going into Egyptian mythology, Ouroboros was definitely used back then within Kemet, within Hamitic societies, within pyramids. It's one of their symbols that they adopted. And here you can see a woman, or maybe this is Ukhtajet, or maybe Isis, who knows. But anyways, you can see that there's a ring around her, right? And that ring is essentially a serpent following itself or eating its own tail, as depicted as Ouroboros. So apart from Osiris being depicted as the serpent, there's this book I'm reading called The Two Babylons by Hislop, and it writes that the serpent is universally the symbol for the sun or the great enlightener. You know, um, uh, for example, Osiris, for example, Tammuz, for example, Vulcan. So this all draws back to Luciferianism or the devil being, the god of fire, the god of sun, or the god of light. You know, and get this is something that I also learned recently, and this actually blew my mind. In Isaiah 27, the scriptures, the identity of the Leviathan is revealed to be the devil, and Ouroboros, or the self-eating serpent, is also referred to as the Leviathan. And I totally thought that the Leviathan was something else, but clearly not. So that's something cool to know. So this serpent that's eating its own tail, it symbolizes the unity of all things, material and spiritual, which never disappear but change form. It symbolizes this internal cycle of death and life, recreation, um, and it also ties to symbolism of female and male phallus worship. So apparently, the mouth represents the womb, and the tail represents the male phallus. So when the phallus gets into the womb, you have rebirth, you have gestation, you have conception. So as you die and eat your own tail, you're reborn, and that ties to the story of the father, the divine mother, and the father being reborn as the divine child. You know, so it's just something to think about whenever you see the symbol. Um, Whenever it's projected onto you, may you know what you're dealing with. Something else interesting that I found about this symbolism is its origins and its presences throughout different societies across the world. Not just Egypt, but also in North mythology, in ancient Greek mythology, in the scriptures, in ancient China, and one of those mythologies includes Norse mythology. And so this serpent, Ouroboros, is believed to be one of Loki's three children, being Yogamander. And get this, some indigenous tribes in South America also believe that on the edge of the world's disk, or right outside the firmament, there is this huge, massive, insanely big serpent that is engulfing the firmament and enclosing its circumference. So this isn't just coming from one society. Well, definitely it originated somewhere, and then throughout time it just spread out, And that's one thing that I'm gaining to understand about Luciferianism. The more I read about it, is that it is global. Each and every society or corner of the world has its own version of Luciferianism, and different gods and different names and different religious practices. However, they all tie back to one thing. Once you understand the identity um, and the origins of each god and the symbolism for those gods, they all draw back to either Egypt, Babylon, um, or ancient Hittite tribes. So it's all the same, man. It's all paganism. Whether it be Islam, whether it be um, Baha'u'llah, whether it be Christianity, whether it be Buddhism, or any indigenous tribe beliefs. It all ties back to the same thing. The third imagery or symbolism that I want to share with you guys is the concept of, well, the practice of exposing the left breast out. In a picture, in a painting, in art, it can come in various forms. And this is one of the way that the women in that side of shadow society like to identify who they are to each other. They like to identify and depict themselves as these divine goddesses or these witches or wizardresses. And when they do something like this, when they do this, they're depicting themselves as one of the goddesses that they worship. Now, though the identity of that goddess can come in many forms, it could come in female goddess who was veneered and is still veneered and worshipped and sacrificed to today are the following: Nike or Nike, the goddess of victory; Artemis, the archer goddess; Isis, the Egyptian goddess; Astarte, who Easter is based after; Ishtar; Aphrodite, the Greek goddess; Venus, her Roman counterpart; Libertas, liberty; Inanna, Juno. It's they come in many various forms. So the reason why they like to expose their left breast, because they believe that that symbolism, that act, that practice is associated with fertility, with nourishment, and with life. Vegetation, rebirth, creation, and that specifically comes from the goddesses of Isis, Artemis, Inanna, Aphrodite, and Demeter, because in their realms they were also known as the goddesses of fertility. you know. So celebrities like to liken themselves onto this goddess. I have more examples here. Here we got Nicki Minaj, whom you guys know, in the same pose with the left breast out. Here we got Miley Cyrus, exposing her right titty out. This one's more covered up than before, but she's got the Eye of Horus on it. Here we got another one. I don't know who this is, but at the award ceremonies, at their shows, whenever they get the opportunity, whenever they have the camera on them, they will try to proclaim their identity, you know. And then lastly, you guys may have seen this from years ago. That is Lil Kim with her left breast exposed. And yeah, she's venerating Isis. She's venerating the mother goddess, you know. And this is where a lot of these concepts of liberty or feminism come from. It's a trickle down effect from these goddesses who believe that they were the master of their own fate. They were the master of their own life. They were they were free. You know, and freedom, of course, also comes with sexual liberty. The ability to have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want. You know, and that has a trickle down effect when we worship people like that. When our artists or the women that our daughters and sisters look up to believe in that, because that trickles down to them, and then they believe that they can have sex with whoever they want to have sex with whenever they want to have sex with. And that just leads to whoredom. That just leads to whoredom. All right, so a lot of these gods were or are Mesopotamian gods and also Phoenician gods. The Phoenicians were Canaanites, by the way. So after Israel's liberation from Egypt, when after they wandered 40 years in the wilderness, the Most High specifically said that they are not to adhere to the practices and to the beliefs of the people that they are going to come into contact with when taking their land. And so those people that they came into contact with, the Phoenicians, the Mesopotamians, they worshipped Inanna, they worshipped Astarte, they worshipped Ishtar, And unfortunately, eventually that got to the Israelites and they started to worship and serve those other goddesses. And that's a lot of the reason why we don't get to see God's face as much these days, because we serve other gods, we forsake him, and we worship these other gods. Finally, we got the checkerboard floor, which is definitely something that you guys have seen constantly over and over again. Some of you guys may even know more about this more than me. This is just a quick touch on this one. So we got the checkerboard floor, contrasting colors, right? Black and white. And there's symbolism in that. There is esoteric meaning in the black and white. The first and foremost one is balance. Luciferians or witches and wizards like to believe that there is balance in their ritual, in their magic, in their practices. In order to give, one must take. In order to take, one must give. You know, and that's just the concept of duality. You know, two sides of one coin, up versus down, as above, so below, black, white, man, woman, young, old, black magic, white magic, perfect balance. And that's why those checkerboards are black and white, by the way, to represent black magic and white magic. Sometimes there'll be red tiles too, but that's what once in a while. And the red in that represents blood sacrifice. Like down here, there's a white and red checkerboard floor. The red represents blood sacrifice. Yeah, so apparently when I did my research, these designs or these floor artwork has existed since ancient Egypt. Apparently in the homes or in the palaces of pharaohs, they would have checkerboarded floors. And I also read somewhere that the Temple of Solomon also had checkerboard floors. Now, I don't believe I recall the scripture saying that, but I did look up various sources, and a lot of them said the same thing about the Temple of Solomon having checkerboarded floors, which is crazy, as an origin, as an origin, you know. So these are the a combination of the symbols that I wanted to share with you guys. Like I said before, when you see these symbols, just know who you're dealing with, know what you're dealing with, and keep in mind of some of the doctrines or the principles that you may be learning from them without knowing. Even me, when I research and read these things, I have not a hard time, but I do consider what I'm putting into my subconscious, in terms of symbolisms and Luciferian beliefs. Reading this much about them, I'm trying to keep them from becoming a part of me, and then that's just a journey in life, man. But hey, I don't mean to go off with you guys. Please continue to pray every day. Please continue to be grateful about what the Most High has allowed you in a day. Continue to ask Him for knowledge, wisdom, guidance, and the wisdom of fearing Him and fearing His statutes, His laws, His commandments, His mandates, His testimonies, and His law. You know, that's the covenant that we have with Him. As long as we fear His law, as long as we obey His commandments. Thank you guys for another video. I'm out.